Hello and welcome to West Country Wanderings. Welcome to one of my railway series. Also, today we're in a Lost Railway one. So it's a Lost Railway walk. I'm in Gloucestershire in the Forest of Dean. In fact, we've been to the Forest of Dean doing a couple of railways before because this whole area is once littered with industrial railway lines and some passenger ones too. Now the walk we're doing today is a section of a branch from Parkend. This is where I am at the moment, which is the terminus of the Dean Forest Heritage Railway. Parkend lies about 4 miles to the north of the large town of Lydney, well, large-ish, which originally had a working port and a couple of canals as well, something we'll probably do in one of our canal series later on. But the section from here branched off to the north of the village of Parkend. Up that way, if you carried on, if the line Dean Forest line carried on, it would take you to Speech House and thence on to Lidbrook, which it did, of course, originally before the line closed in BR days. But we're looking at a section which spurred off from here, kind of went round the other side of the playing field here and behind the Memorial Hall, linking up and then kind of curving back on itself, so it was like almost parallel to the siding that runs out of the present day Parkend station, although the two didn't actually link. It then made its way to the village of Milkwall, where there was a couple of turn-offs there, 2 other railways, and thence on to the town of Coleford. So today hopefully we'll be able to walk it from here, Parkend, to Coleford. Obviously I need to return and do a return walk back to my car. So I hope you join me again here on West Country Wanderings for another Lost Railway Walks in the Forest of Dean. So our railway line curved away from the line heading up from Parkend to Speech House, just the other side of these white houses there, just where you saw those bikes go. So this is a bit of a curve that joined that line up to Speech House down towards Coleford. As I say, it didn't actually turn off at the station at Parkend, but just to the north of it. You can see some railway fencing, and up here I think is a new community orchard here in Parkend. So there's a pub down this way, the Woodman Inn, which is walkers and cyclists friendly, which is useful if you're doing this Lost Railway walk here in Gloucestershire. And the entrance to it is straight down there into the pub. But our railway line carried along here towards what is the present day International Timber Yard. So that way down there takes you to Cannock Ponds. Maybe a walk we can do in the future. Now, old buildings associated with industry of mining, coal mining, ironworks, they abound in this area. In fact, we'll be coming to a large site on our walk today, but it's still a beautiful area and very popular with tourists today. I'm not sure what this building was here next to the railway. A bit more railway fencing there on the corner of Hughes Terrace. So our railway continues here down through Crown Lane. Crown Lane is a junction with Folly Road. You can see that building there. The side of it is actually the Memorial Hall, which was built in 1919, but it looks like it had an industrial past. The track continues down there. That's actually where I did the introduction video, in the Parkend sports field. But we continue on down this way. Interesting building there. Looks vaguely World War II-ish. Not sure. Could be industrial as well. But that's the Fountain Inn, which is opposite Parkend station. Just for completeness, I'll just show you that first. Our railway ran parallel to the road at this point, just on the right of the road, heading towards Coleford. So we're now looking at the end of the siding which came out of Parkend and its station. Extensive sidings in this area, of course, to serve all of the collieries hereabouts. There's Parkend's lovingly restored signal box, and the volunteers are actually hard at work today. Though it's a bit chilly, it's a nice sunny day, they're actually painting the level crossing gates. Now this building here is all that remains of Parkend's ironworks. It's now owned, unbelievably, by Bristol City Council, part of their education division, because they use it for courses for pupils. Now, if you remember, I said that the railway carries on in a northerly direction from Parkend up towards Speech House. If you carry on that way, you get to Cannock Ponds, and they were actually built to provide a source of water for the ironworks here at Parkend. It was used in the Second World War, actually closed in 1877, I do believe. But yeah, it was used in the Second World War to base American troops here before its present day residential use for schools. So let's return to our Lost Railway walk, then heading away from Parkend station now in the direction of Coleford. And appropriately enough, the cottage there on the right is called Railway Cottages. So the line would have followed where the present day trees are there to the right of the road. That's where we're going. I will stop later on to tell you more about the history of this line, because absolutely fascinating history and what it was used for, and all the branches that branched off the branch as well. Bit of bent metal there by the road, just by this lay-by off the road next to the railway track. The railway tracks there. Not sure if that's railway related or not. So our railway looks like it went in a bit of a cutting there, just on the right of the screen there. That's where we came down earlier, and that's the bit which carries on that curve towards Cannock Ponds and Speech House and all of that, linking up with the line heading north from Parkend. But our line to Coleford swings this way, joining up that curving connecting loop. I think our railway carried on that way. I think those buildings were added later. I'm not sure if there was a bridge there or a level crossing there originally. So that's our track there on the right of the road, around from this junction. I think the road has probably been widened since the railway closed. So let's get on the path now. There is also a bike hire shop in Parkend, very useful. It also has a great cafe as well, which I've used previously when I've been visiting the Dean Forest Railway. Recommend that. So you can pick up a bike here and then cycle along this Lost Railway walk. And at this point here, the railway crossed over a road, or minor track. That's a nice touch there, isn't it? Here you get a greater sense of the location of the line and all the countryside and forestry that surrounds it as we curve away out from the village of Parkend. So the Severn & Wye Railway started its life off as a series of tramways. It was a complete railway by 1810, when it linked the docks at Lydney and Lydney Harbour there on the River Severn, which we've covered a little bit before, but we'll probably explore it in more detail again, up here to Parkend. And then it had a number of branches serving off the various quarries and collieries in this part of the Forest of Dean. After various little branches are made in the Parkend area, the line was extended northwards, eventually linking up with the towns of Lydbrook, Cinderford, and where we're going to today, Coleford. But the first one was actually the Mineral Loop line, which kind of branches off around from Whitecroft station there on the Dean Forest Railway, which we looked on a previous Lost Railway walk, although we're trying to find the tunnel on that and didn't make on this occasion. There are no tunnels on the one today, sorry about that, but we will be back here in the Dean Forest to look at some tunnels on other branches of the Severn & Wye and other railways that are in this area. It isn't just the Severn & Wye, there's other ones in this extensive and wonderful part of the world. Now, this branch we're walking along today was authorised by an Act of Parliament on the 18th of July 1872. Although in the same session of Parliament they also passed an Act to build the Coleford Railway. That's the one I talked about, which linked the town of Coleford to Monmouth in Wales. In that Act there was a stipulation that if the Severn & Wye Railway hadn't got to Milkwall after 2 years, the Coleford Railway could build their own line extending it from Coleford out to Milkwall, which gave the Severn & Wye Railway impetus to do that. Because of the ironworks in the area, the extensive quarrying and the collieries, they really wanted a piece of the action, so they really cracked on with building this branch here towards Coleford. Now, the other oddity about that Act of Parliament is it stipulated a joint station and a connection between the Coleford Railway from Monmouth to this branch here from Parkend. But that actually happened. The Coleford Railway, which later became part of the Great Western Railway, run it as a completely separate operation, and there was never any through running from Parkend down to the Welsh town of Monmouth. Maybe they missed a bit of a trick there by not doing that, because a lot of people in this part of the world actually even now go to shop in the town of Monmouth. Although it's in a different country, it's only just a few miles over the border on over the other side of the River Wye. But yes, so they had that competition and rivalry, competing for getting to the various collieries and the quarries in the area. Back there in Parkend, Coleford Junction, as it was known, was really extensive, had lots of extensive sidings. And the reason for that was that the trains coming from Lydney had to do like a reversal, so they needed lots of marshalling yards for the coal as well. So it was quite an extensive operation. Hard to imagine now, quiet and peaceful Parkend, what it would have been like when all of these railways merging in this part of the world was centred here in the heart of the Forest of Dean. Let's go on now and continue our walk through to Coleford. Well, what a really beautiful walk this is, and what a beautiful day. It is a little bit chilly, it's about 4 degrees, but because the sun is out, the sun actually feels quite strong. It's warming things up quite nicely, so we should get up to about 7 degrees today, I think, on our walk. Very pleasant walk, so I can highly recommend this. As I say, you can either hire bikes back there in Parkend, or you can walk it and then walk back again. I'm not sure if there's a bus. I don't think there are many buses to Parkend, that's the only thing. But Coleford's got all the usual facilities, so we're hoping to grab a coffee there before I head back and do some additional filming and tell you a bit more about the line. The construction of the line was actually made a little bit easier because part of it had already been a tramway stroke plateway, so some of it was fairly easy to do. Although, as you probably notice, it's not as flat as what you would expect a railway line to be. There's quite a few curves on it, and a few gradients as well. Now in this section here, it goes on quite a bit of an embankment, so we're on a raised section now, so now the forest floor is falling away a bit down there. And we've got some very attractive cottages just coming up. I'm not sure if there's a bridge or a fence, something down there, but we're certainly high up above those, so we're almost level with the roof line of the cottages just over here. I'm not sure if this area was once used perhaps for mining or for quarrying, because it does seem to be a little bit of depression in the landscape there. So if I can check a map and put that in there, but it drops quite a bit on the other side. So here at one time there would have been a minor level crossing here on a branch. I think this track actually just serves the cottages. I noticed a rail there, I think it's a broad gauge rail, just by the electricity pole. But we're going to carry on straight on towards Coleford. Definitely quarrying here in the past, which would have been aided by the railway coming through here towards Coleford. Now these are the extensive quarries at Bostonbury Hill, just to the right of the railway towards Coleford. Although there is a quarry here, there's larger ones further on deep in the woodland behind the hill there. Again, I think there was another little railway crossing here, level crossing. Oh, there's a key just on there. Don't know whose key that is. Someone's left a key behind. But yeah, so there would have been gates here originally. And the track is still used, in fact, going across what would have been the railway track up into the woodland there, because it is an active and managed woodland by the Forestry Commission. I think there were actually sidings here to serve the extensive quarries here at Bostonbury. Possibly here, just where you see that dip there, there may have been a siding off on that side. Now, like with all railways, they often run into financial difficulties, and it was desirous of the owners of the Severn Wye or the Sai Wye, Hafrongui, to sell it on to the Great Western Railway, because of course they originally owned the line from Coleford to Monmouth. Although that closed quite early, that's a story for a different day, I fear. And they also tried to sell it to various other independent companies that had interests in mining, to no avail. But in 1894, the Severn and Wye Railway, including the famous Severn Bridge, no, not that one, or the other one, but the railway one from Sharpness across towards in the direction of Lydney, something we'll do a proper video about another day, was sold not to the GWR, but to an amalgamation of the GWR and the Midland Railway Company. So it was a joint operation. And the pressure on was to get this line built, because what they wanted to do was to get to Easter Iron Mine near the village of Millwall, because that is where all the freight would have been and all the money would have been to operate the line. So still on quite a bit of an embankment here. I'm still on a tight curve, but not only a tight curve, they also had to dig quite a bit of a cutting here as well through solid rock. It does seem at the moment that the curve seems to be going on and on, bearing round to the right. But just ahead of me, the other end of this, well, imagine the work that would have taken to cut this out for what would have been a fairly minor branch off the 7&Y. It was no pot of gold to get to the iron mine, although it would have increased freight revenues. It wasn't going to give them a huge income, and passenger numbers on the branch would always have been quite low. It was always a bit of a secondary consideration. Now at this point here, if memory serves, I think another railway down there following the road actually goes underneath the railway track here, heading into the quarries. So we have a bit of a tunnel here, this railway here, going through this cutting, which went underneath, and I think it served a slate quarry. Unfortunately, it's a little bit slippery because it's been so wet. I can't get any further down into it because I'll probably never be able to get back out again, but interesting. Well, I don't give up easily, as you know, so I tried again to get through to the other side, the side that's facing the road, and it's almost like the railway would have taken off on the sheer side of the valley here, perched above the road. It's hard to make out where the railway track was, although I can just see it behind the camera. The odd thing about this tunnel, I think you can walk through it, but it has an odd kink halfway through. So halfway through the tunnel, it bends almost to like a 45-degree angle. Let's just have a quick look inside the tunnel itself. So as you come out of the tunnel, that's the view that you're presented with. Obviously we have a fallen tree here near the portal of the tunnel, but you can just make out where the track bed was just by the line of fence posts there, and it curves around again. So it was a very curvy piece of railway track bed. Now it's at this point there was another branch branching off our Coleford branch, heading in that direction towards the iron mines, and I did cover those ironworks in a short video called The Titanic Ironworks there, and it includes part of the Easter Ironworks, which was, well, basically the goal to get to there from Parkend for the 7&Y. So this is the branch off the Coleford branch, which is a branch from Parkend, Lydney, which heads into the ironworks. And I say I'll link to that video, that short bite video, if you want to have a look at the ironworks, the photographs I took last year, year before, not sure now, a couple of years ago probably, in that area. If you come this way and you do have time to explore it, unfortunately we've still got fairly short days at the moment, so I'm always pushed for time light-wise, but if you do have time to do it, or you've come on a bike and it's a bit quicker, I can highly recommend exploring the ironworks. As well as the extensive ironworks, you also have Point Quarry at this location. As you can see from the sign, we are 130 metres, 133 metres even, above sea level at this point. And there would have been a siding just in there, as well as the aforementioned branch to serve the ironworks. See here, the cutting is quite wide, so we've got obviously our main track, single track there, going to Coleford, but there would have been a siding here, perhaps some marshalling yards, well not marshalling yards, but siding certainly for the quarry and for the ironworks. I think I do have one or two old photographs of this location in a great book called The Last Days of Steam in Gloucestershire. I've got volumes 1 and 2, one of my favourite books. Ben, forgotten the guy's name, Ben something or other, I'll put it in now. And if I can find one of this location, then I'll include it around about now. Surprisingly close to the railway track bed. There's our track bed. That's looking back in the direction of Parkend. And surprisingly close to it, we have a shaft, a mine shaft here for the colliery in this area. Now Fetters Hill is over there, and I'm not sure if this one was actually linked to Fetters Hill Colliery. It could have been, but it's certainly dramatic going all the way down there. You can't get through because there's a fence here and lots of signs saying danger, so I don't want to wander off that in case there's any uncapped shafts in this area. But yeah, that there was a slag heap, so that you can just imagine that the bits and rubbish that it didn't want after digging it out from the ground there would have been heaped up there, and also now it's been, nature's taken it back again with trees growing over it. But yeah, so close to Fetters Hill here on the railway track bed. That's looking back towards Parkend, and that is in the direction of Coleford. Yeah, so a lot of this on this side here would have been mine waste in this area. So it was a large mine here, Fetters, which was useful of course to provide power for the ironworks, which is literally just on the other side of the railway tracks. Yeah, it's really hard to imagine all the noise and chaos that would have been in this area now, which apart from the road is pretty quiet. I think there might be an industrial unit up there, but apart from that it's just the sound of birds in this area. But it would have been the sound, incredible noise coming from the mine there, and also from the ironworks with the stamps in the ironworks. It would have been also with all the smoke coming up from it as well. But today things are very, very different. Now, I don't think there are any aims from the Dean Forest Railway to construct a line back this way to link Parkend to Coleford. Nice that it would be, although it is still pretty nice to walk on and enjoy for walkers and cyclists. It's fantastic here. So I'll just keep my eyes down there. I can see lots of railway fencing down there, but you never know where there might have been spurs going off in different directions. But I know that they do have a long-term aim. I'm heading north from Parkend in the direction of Cannock Ponds and Speech House, because there was a railway station at Speech House before you got to Lidbrook. But that would be amazing to get to Cannock Ponds, because that is a big tourist draw there, and it would also cut down on people driving to Cannock Ponds there as well. So that would be excellent if that could happen. I think we're talking about quite a bit in the future, but it'd be great to see anyway. Well, slight confession to make. Coming up soon, we have the location of the station at Milkwall. But also near Milkwall was another branch, this time heading down to a place called Sling, where I think there was another colliery. Now, I've been looking at the maps, and I can see on the rail maps online where the line was. When I convert that to present AOS maps, I can't work out where on earth the line was. So it certainly doesn't look like it's walkable. There's no footpath along the old railway track to Sling, and it looks like perhaps some of the roads may have been widened, or roads re-engineered to have been built on the former railway track. I'm also not sure exactly where the Sling branch diverged away from our branch here, heading towards Coleford. But we'll keep our eyes peeled and see if we can work out where together it went from. Now between Milkwall, as I say, where there was a station on this branch, see if I can find a photo of what Milkwall station looked like. I think I've got an idea where the station was, because it's next to an industrial unit which is near the tracks, I think. Between Milkwall village and Coleford on the road is a tourist attraction, and that tourist attraction is railway line orientated. It's not a railway that was once in existence, but it's called Perrygrove. It's a miniature railway, and I think it's owned by the same people that own Evesham Vale Railway, which is just off the A46 road going up to Redditch. So yeah, so it's the same one. The only trouble is trying to cover ones like that is because obviously there's lots of children there, and there's a YouTuber that makes it a little bit difficult filming, but not sure if I'll do it one day or not, so maybe not. But Perrygrove, if you're interested, just outside the town of Coleford here in Gloucestershire. Well, I think we may have found the route of our Sling branch. I'm not 100% certain, but I think it's going through the woods here. Now, a couple of things that give it away is that there is a culvert, and to my best of knowledge, there's only three things that tend to have culverts: roads, canals, although they tend to be more aqueducts, but you can get culverts, and railways. And it doesn't look like that was ever a road, and there's no railways in this part of the forest that I'm aware of. Also, it looks like the other side of that culvert could well be some railway fencing, and it goes straight on an embankment through the woodland. So I think this is the location of Sling. Just as I turn around to head back onto the main track of the Coleford branch, I just noticed that down there as well. I'm not sure if that's part of a chair or part of a bit that connects the chair to the sleeper, or part of a rail, but interesting find there just off the railway track bed. Interesting here, you can see an extensive quarrying, so Sling branch going down there to a colliery, and again on the right hand side we would have had extensive quarries, or sidings even, serving the needs of the quarries. Just come off from the line for a minute just to have a closer look of the quarry here. Some interesting marks on the rock there that remains in situ. Here it looks like it's almost like claw marks from something that may have been trying to dig out the rock, some kind of mechanical digger perhaps. You can certainly see the various strata layers there as well. At this point here we have to go on a slight diversion to cross the road. This is the road that goes to Broadwell and Mile End on my right, back to Parkend on my left. And I think originally there would have been a bridge. Now it's hard to work out exactly, but our Milk Walk station is in this area. There's a factory there, quite noisy, called Fayland Paper Services. And I think it was round about here. We're just coming up to what would have been a level crossing, but sadly there's no remains of it whatsoever in the area, but I'll include a photograph of it now. We're just about to go on to the Milkwall to Coleford cycle track. So looking back on the other side of the road here at Milkwall, that there on the left is Station House, which is close to the station, which would have been just on the right hand side. So this road crossing, present day road crossing of the Milkwall Coleford cycleway, would have been a location of a level crossing hill at Milkwall, and close to the station, which I do believe was on the other side. So there's a bit of a busy crossroads back there, some workmen working on it, so I couldn't include a shot of it properly, see if I can catch her on the way back. But this delightful pathway, Greenway, which obviously was originally our Coleford branch, will take us right into the heart of Coleford. And where it brings us out, well, a little bit of surprise, unless you remember a vlog I did probably 3 years ago, but I'll show you that and I'll conclude the video from there. But I hope you're enjoying the walk here from Parkend to Coleford. And before I wrap it up, I'll tell you a little bit about the history, or the final history, of its decline. So here we are in Coleford, 191 metres above sea level here. And the Parkend sign there, 6 kilometres away. So, so 12 kilometres walking there and back. So it's a reasonable walk. So, what's about 8 miles or so, maybe just over 8 miles. So put in what it is properly below. So allowing for little diversions that we've done today. So let's just head over the other side of the road here. So the other side of the road we have this, which is the GWR Railway Museum. Yes, indeed. This might be a surprise if you've not seen this before, but I have covered it. I think it was about 3 years ago when I did a monthly vlog from this part of the world. I also covered part of another railway line in that vlog, and I'll link to that at the end of this video as well if I can. But yeah, it's a wonderful place. Not open today, but it's a miscellany of railway things. This is the original GWR goods shed. There's no remains of the Coleford railway station there that once belonged to the 7&Y. It's good that that's a survivor though. It's always good to see this here in Coleford. And that's looking back at our track. So our tracks comes from there, from Parkend. That's the Milkwall to Coleford cycle track, obviously continuing on to Parkend. This is the library now. It's called the Main Place, and it was hereabouts you had the separate railway station for the 7&Y. Sun's in the wrong place there, but you get the general idea of the layout here. Signal box actually came from, well, part of it came from Coglode, and I'm not sure if the inside came from Coglode or the outside, which is just north of Taunton. And the other bit of it came from just north of Hereford, where the line between the Welsh Marches diverges away across to the line heading to Worcester. So there's a sign there saying it's open Fridays and Saturdays, 2:30 to 5 o'clock, and for the bargain price of just £5, which is, well, I can highly recommend that. There is a sign there saying about what I was talking about earlier on. Yeah, so there's one of those Great Western and Midland Railway joint signs, because they took over the operation of our 7&Y branch down to Parkend and on to Lydney. And there's a nice view of the signal box here at Coleford. As I say, it's not the original one, but the goods shed most definitely is. I think they tried to demolish it, the council tried to demolish it, but thankfully I think it's the present owner, Mike Lease, and some other people from the town managed to save it. So glad that they did. And there's a final view of the goods shed and the signal box from the back, just from the health centre car park. That's great to see. It's like a Tarzan rope, this here. You remember earlier on in the video I said about the sling branch? Well, I'm walking back towards Parkend now, and I think this is what it is. We've got railway fence posts all along here, diverging away from the main track bed of the Coleford branch, which is somewhere up there. And that culvert I showed you earlier in the video is just literally down there. I can't find any more information about it, and hopefully I'll be able to find it on a map or a couple of maps when I do the edit of this video. Just to wrap things up today, so the line closed. It barely lasted, what was it? Barely lasted 50, 60 years, didn't it? Because it closed I can't get an exact date. It was in the 1920s, latter part of the 1920s. It was only ever lightly used by passenger trains. And in fact, the line to Monmouth closed earlier than that, didn't it? But we have that stub in Coleford to serve the quarry, the other side of it. I don't know if we can see any of that or not. And I know there is, I know there's definitely one, possibly two tunnels, which I did kind of discover, well, where the entrance of one of them was when I did that vlog when I was looking at the GWR museum there in Coleford. So it's an interesting area, it's a fascinating line, and there's a lot to see in the area, particularly with that colliery shaft there, right close to the railway line. That's amazing, isn't it? Yeah, that's incredible there. So I hope you enjoyed this Lost Railway walk here in the Forest of Dean in Gloucestershire. We will be back to this part of the world again because there's so much to see in this area. Hopefully next time we'll have a look at one of the lines that has one of the tunnels on it. And I also hope to do a video on the Severn Bridge Railway, which was the stub. So after this became nationalised, this branch of course had long closed, but they took over part of the Severn and Wye, and that was the section between Sharpness across the railway bridge into Lydney, and that railway across the River Severn on that bridge was used a lot by school children. After the bridge was, well, damaged, and then of course it was then demolished, as you know, the school children from Lydney to Sharpness or Sharpness to Lydney had to make a huge diversion around the city of Gloucester to get to and from school. So yeah, that's amazing. But lots to see in this area. Hope you enjoyed the tour. As I say, we will be back here again, and we will be looking at other different lost railway walks in the wider West Country as well. Thank you very much for watching today. Hope to see you on the channel again very, very soon. All the best for now. Cheers. Goodbye.